because it's not really
right.
the relationship that's the problem. It's the abuser's choice of behavior that's the problem.
So you work with them separately is what you're
Correct,
saying. But
correct.
you do attempt to
Right.
make
The abuser program is a
modifications.
6-month program
Okay.
where the men and women come every week for a 2-hour group session along with 10 to 15 others for 26 weeks. So that hopefully gives us enough time to change behaviors and help them embrace some new values.
And I assume that this is a free service to those that make contact.
Well, all of our victim services are free. So
Okay.
the shelter, the counseling, all of that are free. But the abuser program, there is a fee, and it's a sliding fee scale. So, the minimum is like $20 each session. But to us, that's part of, to help pay
Right.
for the program to make sure it can
Yes,
continue. But to help the person that's involved in that see that there is a value to that program.
Is your program, you've indicated that the numbers are still pretty high. Are you faced with perhaps what all the other social agencies are faced with here in the state of Illinois in terms of reduction in funding, and how do you anticipate that will impair or reduce your services, if at all?
Well, it already has.
It already has.
Right. Last year, the governor threatened us with a 75% cut
Oh,
in our
wow.
services,
That's disgusting.
which might have meant cutting out most of our programming.
Yes.
It turned out that it was only 10%, although in
Okay.
any other year we would complain about that. And now this year, another 10% is being proposed by the governor. So what might change is like our elder abuse investigation now is a 15-month window. We may have to cut it back to 10 months or 12 months. We may have to curtail the number of people that stay in our shelter. So, until we know for sure what the legislature is going to do, we don't know yet, but we certainly have a lot of things in place. We're down many staff members. Our staff haven't had a raise in 3 years. We're just lucky that we have a lot of committed people that want to stay anyway and be there to help.
Can you expand on the elderly abuse? Is that something that has always been there, or has that been something that seems to be happening as much, if not more, today? And
Well,
what does elderly abuse really consist of?
Okay, thanks. Well, it's a relatively new program that the state of Illinois just passed 20 years ago. And what it is the center is basically hired by the state of Illinois to be the investigator
Okay.
in any kind of allegation toward anyone 60 and over. And it covers physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, which we've already talked
Okay.
about. But it also expands to neglect. So in other words, if a senior isn't getting the right care, the right
Yes.
food, the right, their housing isn't adequate, whatever, we can step in and help that.
Fantastic.
And about half of the cases also involve financial exploitation, which
Yes.
means that someone in their family or a caretaker is basically ripping off their assets. So they may be stealing their Social Security. They may be, we had a couple examples of 2 women that almost lost their houses because they trusted a niece to handle all their finances for them. But the niece was going over to the gambling boat and it all went away. And the bank started foreclosing. But the niece, was getting the mail, so the aunt never saw it. So it's things like that that we can intervene in and keep seniors in their own home. That's the whole purpose.
Would you say, at least my thought is that when economic times get hard as they are now, does domestic abuse kind of show its head in terms of the frustration that individuals may be having, and a husband taking it out on the wife, or the wife is nagging and whatever, and they get tired of hearing it? And is there any kind of connection from your viewpoint between
Sure.
hard times, economic, and the things that are happening in terms of our own behavior at home?
Yes, there is not a direct connection. In other words, if you get stressed or your money situation is difficult, that doesn't automatically turn you into an abuser.
And it certainly doesn't justify it at all.
No,
Right.
absolutely not. But if you are someone that's prone or has the idea that the way to be in control or feel good is to use abuse. Then, sure, the economy will trigger it. Something that went wrong at work will trigger it. But it's who you are to begin with.
Well,
Does
Martha,
that make sense?
Yes, it certainly does. I feel very comfortable knowing that you're still at the helm of that ship. I can remember, as I say, years ago when I first met you and you were in charge, and you were very sensitive to the needs of those that you serve, and it sounds now like you've even expanded more so from just a women's strength kind of a thing in the services. And I certainly wish you well, and I know that you're also funded through the United Way, right?
Oh, of course.
Okay,
yes,
and
absolutely.
I would certainly hope, again, when people are approached either at work or wherever to contribute to the United Way, that they think of the kinds of services that are provided by you and the myriad of other agencies and the programs that they have, and that they support you financially, as well as support you in letting people know that there is a service such as yours in the community, and to make referrals or have people to call and get more information.
That would be great.
Okay.
Well, and I want to make sure your audience knows that all of our work is confidential. We are limited by the law to say that we don't go out and tell anybody what's going on.
Okay. Well, Martha, I wish you well, and
Thank
your
you.
agency and your staff and your board for the leadership that you provided, and I certainly hope that our state government gets itself together to give support at a time when we really need that kind of support for you to effectively do your job. We're going to take a short break, and after the break, we're going to show you a outstanding speech given by Vice President Biden when he came and spoke here in Peoria, and I think you'll enjoy that also. And I want to thank you again for being with us, and we'll be right back. Call your friends, call your neighbors, and please stay tuned.
I can briefly hear your conversation. It's a guy, but I don't care, 'cause I got someone waiting. It doesn't matter, we can stop or we can still continue. I'm not sneaky, I'm just hungry, looking for a menu. Our situation's cool, just the way it is. No rules with the kids, no commitment with a list. Our situation's cool, just the way it is. No rules with the kids, no commitment with a list. If you wanna be with him, go ahead, I have no problem being with her. I thought you wanted things to change and be the way they were. If you wanna be with him, go ahead, I have no problem being with her. I thought you wanted things to change and be the way they were. So this is what you want, nights of seduction. That's between you and your conscience while we sit here.
Do you know who we are? PCCEO, helping people, changing lives for every stage of life.
Those of you who are sponsors and aren't as deeply involved but greatly appreciated what you've done, you may not realize when you talk to these people who are on the ground, this is one woman at a time. One woman at a time, and every case, every circumstance is different. And so we're lucky to have individuals like the people I mentioned. And I am extremely happy. I mean this sincerely. I'm flattered that you invited me here today. And to the awardees this afternoon, the Peoria, am I allowed to say, have they been awarded? Pardon? Have the awards been given out yet?
No, they're going to be afterwards, because you were early.
I know, but do they know who's getting the award? I won't mention it. Okay. In my family, I'm known as don't tell dad, he'll blow it. So I didn't want to, I inherited that from my father. Did your mother tell you we got for Christmas, Joey? Anyway.